So my name is Dalton. I'm a professor in the School of Accountancy, and my research focuses on burnout and employee turnover within the accounting profession. So I have a study where we were really interested in the impact of stress during the pandemic on employees at large accounting firms, their turnover, and their long-term career aspirations. I mean, everybody had stress during the pandemic, but what we found was that women in accounting firms had a lot higher stress. So if you went before the pandemic, men and women had very similar levels of stress and burnout in accounting firms. And during the pandemic, though, women had much higher levels of rollover load and stress. That's because the daycares were shut down. Women had to focus a lot more in terms of taking care of their parents, maybe elder care. So we found that women had a lot higher levels of stress. What that translated to was shifting priorities. So women had they're much more likely to focus on things like their work-life balance, their personal and family relationships, and they kind of lessen their priorities in terms of focusing on the status and prestige of pursuing the partner track in accounting firms. And the issue with that is just that we are also finding that women had higher turnover intentions. So that's a big issue for the accounting profession. So for decades, firms have been trying to promote more women to the highest levels of their firms. And so when we found that women shifted their priorities, they're less focused on reaching the top levels of the firms, which is the partner level. And so that's a big issue that the firms are going to have to navigate in the next few years. Also, if more women are leaving the profession, then that means the women who are entering the profession are going to have a harder time finding mentors and advocates, because now the more experienced women are leaving the firms. So the other study that I'll talk about here is I'm doing a study on the entire turnover process within accounting firms. So what we're looking at is, from the time that somebody's thinking about leaving until the time that they actually leave the firm, and everything in between. So what are the main factors driving turnover? So the results of that study are really broken out into three main findings. The first one that we found is that work-life balance is the number one issue that is driving turnover in large accounting firms. I'd say the second issue that we found was that the social bonding among employees and coworkers and supervisors is a great way to retain employees. But the issue is during COVID, those social bonds were eroded because nobody was really around. And the third finding that we have is that mentors do a great job of really keeping people in the firms. But at the same time, what we found is that employees are saying that the mentors are not getting trained and they're really not incentivized. So if you think about mentoring support, if you don't have a lot of incentives to be a great mentor, you're probably going to do the bare minimum. And that's kind of what we were finding in the study. I'd say the impacts in that study are primarily three things. Number one, firms really need to focus on these work-life balance initiatives. So things like supporting alternative work arrangements. And the firms have done a lot of promotion of these things, like they give lip service to it, but what we're saying in the paper is they really need to support them authentically. The second thing I would say is that firms need to think about encouraging the social bonds and how they can promote social bonds within the firm. So things like supporting firm events, maybe providing for a lot of happy hours and other firm-sponsored events. The last thing I would say is that firms really need to think about how they organize their mentoring programs. So maybe providing some more training in terms of what it means to be a good mentor, and then also incentivizing people to really do a great job of being a mentor to really retain the employees. So the Powers College of Business has supported my research throughout the whole time I've been here. The first thing I would say is that I do large-scale surveys. So a lot of these surveys we'll send out maybe 3,000 mailings. And then we'll also send out postcards after, so it can get expensive. And I've always felt as though the College of Business has supported any research project that I wanted to pursue. The next thing I would say is once you have your results, oftentimes you'll present at national conferences. And so I've always been encouraged also to get my findings out there to the broader public. So one thing, at least within the School of Accountancy, is we focus on practical findings that are really relevant for firms. And recently, accounting researchers have started measuring the relevance of accounting research. So paper by paper, they'll give you a score on how relevant this is. And the School of Accountancy at Clemson University is ranked 42nd in the world. That's across all universities in terms of relevant practical findings. It's something that our department is really proud of. And you see those findings translate into what we're trying to do is help firms make better decisions and also improve their performance. So right now I've started collecting data from a bunch of CPAs who are sole proprietors. And what we're trying to look at is burnout, work-life balance issues related to sole proprietors. Prior research is really focused on employees that are working in large firms, but with sole proprietors, we're looking at people who are working in their own firm. So they're basically by themselves. And we're finding a lot of sort of interesting findings that haven't been explored in the past, like the isolation of being a sole proprietor really weighs on these people in terms of their burnout and their feelings of work-life balance. And also, what we're finding among the sole proprietors is they don't feel supported with the large professional organizations. So they feel like the professional organizations are really supporting the large firms, but largely ignoring or just overlooking the sole proprietors.